Hi, I'm Jennifer Hutchins. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Association of Nonprofits, and welcome to another MANP Connects. We started this in March of 2020, or excuse me, April of 2020, in response to the lockdown of 2020, which enabled us to reach out to our community out there in the big state of Maine. Big geography, lots of nonprofits doing critical work at a time when everybody needed support because of the impacts, the broad ranging impacts of the pandemic. And we wanted to have a way to share information with you quickly and easily and for free and provide information. And it quickly turned into an opportunity we realized through talking with all of you and for us ourselves was that, yeah, we needed that critical information, particularly in the first few months of the pandemic and its aftermath, but then it really became a sense of connection. And I really believe, I think at one point somebody texted me, a friend, colleague texted me and said, gosh, I'm so glad to hear we're not alone, right? And so many of us felt that way, was the forced isolation that we went into. It was just so critical to feel like we weren't alone. And it really catapulted MANP into this space where we could easily, in a relaxed format, in a way that just made sure visibly, live, audibly, that you could see that we're here for you. We continue to have your back. We're really excited for 2023 and all the things that MANP is thinking about and promoting in the State House for you, and out there for professional development and programs that Katrina and her team are concocting for you this year. So we're super excited. We're today for MANP Connects. I want to start by saying, please continue to introduce yourselves in chat. Please use the chat box. We love our chat box. And so please go ahead and introduce yourselves and connect with people who you know that you recognize and who are attending today. And we are recording the session, and so it does become available later. And let's see, I also want to give a special shout out to our sponsors of the MANP Connects program. That's our partners at Harvard Pilgrim. I don't know how many of you know this, but they shortened their name to HAPI. And so sometimes I get a little thrown off because Kelly will say, hey, we're meeting our happy friends on Tuesday. Isn't that cute? Yeah, well, the point there is that they really are happy, and I mean, not all the time. I mean, no, none of us are happy all the time, right? But I just want to say at MANP, it's really important to us to have funder partners who are connected with us with our values. And not simply a transactional relationship. And I have to say, Happy and our friends at Harvard Pilgrim are at the top of that list. So thank you, Harvard Pilgrim. They are a nonprofit themselves, and they really are committed to providing quality products around health insurance. So thank you for that little shout out. And now I'm going to, I don't know if any of you are social media people. It's totally fine if you're not. I respect that. In fact, I kind of envy you if you've chosen not to. But look who we're introducing to you today, the newest member of the MANP family, Flynn. Hi, Katrina. Look at her. Aw, so tell us a minute, introduce Flynn, please, Katrina, and yourself, of course.
I'm Katrina. I'm the Director of Education at MANP, and this is our new puppy, Flynn. She's 9 weeks old, and she was just sleeping on my desk, but she wanted to pop up and say hello.
Hi, Lynn. Oh my gosh, so cute. Thank you, Katrina. So the cute thing about that, y'all, and this is a little tip if you haven't already taken advantage of this idea, but if you didn't already know, our member survey has been out in the field, and Katie Manter, our membership manager, is in charge of that, and she does a killer job getting a really good response rate. And so at the beginning of this week, she was in the upper 30 percentile. But last year she got up to 50% response rate. And so we figured we might, she knew she would get kind of close to that because we had a whole week and the deadline is today. But then Kelly created this great meme on our social media pages that says, how can you say no to this face with Flynn? And our response rate shot way up. And Katie is the proud manager of a 51% response rate for our member survey. So if you took the time, or somebody in your organization took the time to do that, thank you. If you haven't done that in your organization, there is still time to get it in today. And my third thing is just a little tip. Sometimes, you know, put in a cute little fuzzy picture of Flynn, the brown lab, is actually can get motivate people to do something for you. So that's one way that we're staying well at MAMP, is we have a very active, we use the Zoom, local Zoom chat function with our Zoom membership. And we have a whole thread in there that's simply about sharing things with one another. And if one of us is having a bad day, we'll say, hey, what you got, friends? And people will start inserting. And I'm sure you all have something like that, but that's what today's theme is about. Is, you know, MAMP has started, you know, like many of us, you know, depending on your mission and your flexibility with your space, I completely recognize that many of you run organizations where you don't have the flexibility, but if you do have administrative staff and or your mission is the nature of which you can have office space, you may be thinking about, wait, what do we do now? Now we have all these offices, and do we want to stay hybrid? Do we want to go fully virtual? And literally on my own board, I've had the full range of, oh yeah, no, we need to be in person. We're going to keep our offices all the way to, no, we're going fully virtual. We're going to save the money. We're going to do that. And so it's just this question of how are we managing that? And do we have tips to share with one another about how you're evaluating the wellness of your team and managing the connection that we know we all need. I was just talking about connection a minute ago. So that's the topic of today, and sharing our furry friends is one of the ways that we keep our team feeling good about our work, recognizing that we know our work is important and has value. And it's also really important for us to be able to put the weight of it down from time to time and keep some levity into it, and bring some more joy and celebration into our work as well is really critical. Not to take our work lightly. That is certainly not the intention. It's really more of giving our own spirit and souls a break from the really important stuff that's going on right around us all the time. Also recognizing that some of you are in the thick of it. And I have so much gratitude for so many of you that are providing really critical direct services for people and animals and natural resources that are in serious crisis. And so thank you for that. And my wish is for you to remember to give yourself some rest. And to take a break from time to time. So, boy, I know Kelly's like, okay, Jen, unscripted, get to the good part. Okay, that's fine. I can do that. So I know that we invited our friend Susan from Caring Unlimited, and we invited our friend, oh good, Susan, you're going to start out. Okay, I just saw that you were maybe having some connection problems. Are you all set? Okay, great. So Susan, in addition to being the executive director of Caring Unlimited, which is a domestic violence organization, and she can tell you a little bit more about her organization, she's also a member of our Leadership Institute for Executive Directors. And so we're just delighted to have you here, Susan. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm glad to be here and to see so many people joining for this conversation.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your organization and the work you do, and then I'd just be really, really curious to hear what you're thinking about keeping your team well these days.
Okay, and I apologize, because it's cloudy, I'm having trouble with my internet, but
That's okay.
Um,
We all completely can empathize, so no worries.
what? Um, so Caring Unlimited is the Domestic Violence Resource Center for York County. And annually, we serve about 2,000 individuals, adults and children who have experienced domestic violence. And we offer a range of direct services from our 24-hour helpline, emergency shelter, transitional housing, outreach services, civil legal services, community education and prevention work, as well as systems change advocacy. So really trying to work with the community and other partners like law enforcement, justice system, healthcare providers, you name it, to improve the system's responses to victims and try to hold offenders accountable for their actions.
Yeah, great. So tell me, how is your team doing? How has your team been doing the last I'm not sure, how long have you been the ED there?
I've been the ED for 5 years. So I guess I would say that my experience has been quite defined by COVID. And I'm still trying to figure out, like, is there a normal, or what the environment, as everybody knows, has just shifted so rapidly and continues to shift. And I think that's been a definite stressor on our team, because we've been constantly, right, trying to figure out new ways of doing things, because our services, like many, we couldn't stop. There was no break. Our services were never interrupted.
Right.
But the way in which we did them had to change dramatically, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So can you describe to us a little bit what the how is your organization structured? So were you providing direct in-person services, and do you have had in 2019, what did your office space look like? And did you have administrative staff that was on site and then everybody had to go home?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We had our kind of core staff, our residential staff, continue to work on site. And with many, but just, so weird, because they were physically there, but at first, and it's hard to remember this, didn't have any real physical interactions with people. So we were talking to them on the phone, dropping things outside of the doors, and worrying about how would we have enough toilet paper for people at our shelter.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
making sure they had access to food, because they couldn't just go to the grocery store and wait in line. So there was a lot of just reconfiguring things. And I think we had a kind of a core administrative staff, because people still needed access to emergency funds, the credit card, there are just some things that had to be done in person.
Yeah.
But now I think we've started, the other thing we did at that time, and maybe many people did, was to completely overhaul all our technology. We moved rapidly to a cloud-based server and started adopting all of the online platforms. And I was surprised when I asked my staff on our staff meeting, I said, so I'm talking at this thing on Friday, and I'd love to hear what you think about how, as an organization, how are we doing? What are the things that make you feel connected? And I was really surprised to hear from so many that having the proper technology in place has been really important to feeling connected. And I think it's partly because, it's because it's created some degree of its equity. Everybody has access to the same thing. If you're looking for a document, if you're looking for information, if you are looking for a person, you can find it now, where before in our old system, oh, that's on so-and-so's computer and we don't know where so-and-so is right now. And the same with, we went through all these various meeting platforms, but we couldn't afford to buy a subscription for every person in the organization. But now we have Microsoft Teams. So anybody who wants to have a remote meeting can do that. Anybody who wants to engage that way can do that. And people have really appreciated that ability to be fully productive regardless of where they are. And another aspect of that is that besides them wanting to be able to do a good job, they don't want to let their coworkers down, because we depend so much on each other in our daily work, asking questions, pulling in other resources, getting more information. And this way they feel, even, when they're working from home or you're on COVID protocol or what, you can still be a fully functioning and contributing member of the team. And people really appreciate that.
That's a really interesting point. I wouldn't have thought of that rising to the top, but it's also, it makes a lot of sense too. Susan, also, the data has been out there that unfortunately the cases of domestic violence increased quite a bit during the pandemic. And I can imagine that put an enormous amount of strain on your staff. So not only were you dealing with your own personal challenges of fear and uncertainty around COVID, but you were managing your existing constituency, and then potentially, it sounds like it was even increasing. How did you support your staff in that time?
I think that really was the biggest strain on staff, because people constantly felt like they couldn't do enough, that they couldn't really help this person, because not necessarily because of what was going on for us, but more broadly, the lack of other resources in the community, or problems with the court system kind of shut down. So can't get some remedies, and but also because the stories that we were hearing, people's experiences were much worse. The intensity, the lethality. So it was really, people were already emotionally taxed dealing with whatever was going on for them personally in this circumstances. And then this was layered on top of it. So I felt it was important that we all did, right? That we had to figure out creative ways to provide some kind of acknowledgement of people, the connection of people. And so also reminded me, one of the things we did was we sent care packages, maybe quarterly, a little like a self-care with, like chocolate and a little, like a plant or a fidget toy. It wasn't anything extravagant, but it was a little something, and it was regular, so that people knew that we were thinking of them and cared about them. I laugh when I think about this now, but once the weather finally got decent and people were a little more comfortable with coming in person, I had a mandatory staff picnic, and we all just went to the park and we had sandwiches and played some games, and just were able to was totally social. And at first, I'll admit, for me, I was like, oh, well, if we're getting together for a work thing, there has to be some kind of, value to that. What are we accomplishing? What's our goal? But yeah.
Oh, shoot. We lost her right in the good part.
I'm back.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that's okay. So you guys were at this park and you were like, where's the ROI, folks?
Yeah. But the ROI, was the opportunity just to be together, because some people we hadn't physically seen in months.
Yeah.
So we've adopted mainly a hybrid system now. But when what people said is that now when we do get together, they prioritize that differently. In the past, if we had,
Mm.
oh, let's have
I was
lunch,
like, oh, another staff meeting. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to bother with that. It didn't feel important. But
Yeah.
what they said was now those times when we do get together, and we've tried to institute something quarterly, and again, it's just for fun, and socializing that connection, people want to be there. We
Yeah.
also added like a peer staff supervision group with a licensed clinical professional to help people process some of the demands of the work. And we've been really emphasizing and requiring really regular supervision, so that we have, everybody gets weekly individual supervision. We have weekly staff meetings, and we incorporate some things into that too that I love. We have SARs, which is sharing announcements and recognition. And that's a place where anybody just says, oh, this person, really helped me out this week, or here's a cool thing that happened, or a success story that I had with a client. And it's just really wonderful, right, to hear all the great things that are happening in the organization. And it gives people a chance to, raise up their colleagues and coworkers. And I think has really helps us create the kind of organizational culture that we want.
Those are really great ideas. And hopefully it's helpful to any of you to be hearing this. I can relate to Susan because I recently wanted to have a staff retreat, and I really fought myself because I was like, I just can't not make an agenda. Like, how can I not have an agenda? And so we did some work, but we also tried to make it relaxed and fun. And so if it's helpful to any of you out there, and actually, Susan, I really appreciate that. It's like really giving yourselves permission to once a quarter just have fun together. And that's great. I could talk to you for a long time, but I want to make sure that I also invited Valerie from Bigelow Labs here today. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your work. It's really important. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Valerie, are you out there? I want to make sure I get to connect with you as well. How are you this morning?
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
So
Hey, everybody.
It's Friday. It's almost school vacation. So
yeah. So Susan had some really, really good points about keeping her team well. She obviously is one of those organizations with a mission that was dealing with a multitude of complexities. I'm so excited that you reached out and are willing to talk with us today, because you have your mission is a different mission, and you have a different set of circumstances, and your team represents scientists from all around the world who coming from different cultures and different modes of communicating in terms of their backgrounds. And so I imagine you have some unique clearly you have some unique attributes to your staff. And so keeping people connected and trying to reevaluate how we set up this hybrid space, I'd love to hear a little bit about that and how you're handling that, and what you must have quite a few people in person because your lab is right there. That has to be in person, right?
yes, all of those things. Yes. When the pandemic started, we knew right away that we were going to need to figure out different modes of operation. We never ended up closing, not for a day. We moved a lot of things around. We were able to be really nimble, and I feel like we really dug into the work at that point. We thought a lot about policies, health policies, how we were going to all be kind of extra personally responsible for our own health and taking care of each other during that time to make sure that we could work safely together. We implemented I'm sure a lot of you had the same experiences where you kind of implemented new ways of working together, maybe late shifts or kind of keeping track of the numbers of people in rooms together, masking, of course. And so during the pandemic, we ended up keeping a lot of our staff, building a lot of our programs that just happened to coincide with a big increase in work that we're doing right now. And we hired probably like 20 or 30 new people over the past few years. And so I felt like one of the biggest challenges we had were all these new people coming on staff, but they weren't getting, to meet everybody. We didn't even know what the bottom of their faces really looked like.
Wow.
And so figuring out like how to make connections and make people feel welcome. In some cases, like you mentioned, people are coming from all over the world to work with us. And so they don't have, family or a lot of friends or community that they could count on during these kind of lonely times. So just trying to make sure that they weren't feeling too isolated either.
Were there
So
any specific practices around that were kind of your favorite?
yeah, let's see. So we have an internal newsletter that I think had been maybe just another email in the inbox. And when we were all farther apart, using that internal newsletter to say like, here's our new people, here's some information about them, what do they like to do? Sharing bios and profiles of existing staff members so we could get to know each other a little bit better. What else? Now that we're starting to come back, and what I'm really interested in hearing about too is what are people doing to figure out like the hybrid situation where some people are still working out of the lab or out of the building and some people are on site. So we've started instituting kind of like a day a month that we encourage everybody to be there in person. And sort of like what you've already said about not having too much of an agenda. It's a time where we have morning coffee and tea and donuts and fruit, and we get together and then we do our all hands staff meeting that day. It's a monthly meeting. And then we do a potluck lunch now that we can finally kind of safely eat potluck food again. So that's a really fun day, I think, at the lab and a nice chance for people to reconnect after being on Zoom for the month.
How many staff do you have?
We're at about 110 now.
And what would you say is sort of just generally off the top of your head, how many people are fully remote? How many people have to be in all the time? And how many people are in the middle?
I'd say probably at any given day, half of us are here at the lab.
Mhm.
And then, during the pandemic, the rule of thumb was like, if you could work from home, you did. And now it's, personal choice and trying not to push things on people too much. If you have to be in the lab, come back and do your work. But I think some people like me, I could probably do my job from home all the time, but I come in 3 days a week and just enjoy seeing people and making those connections. So yeah, I think we're about half and half on any given day.
Great. So in a minute, I'm gonna open it up to other people. I'm not quite done with you, Valerie. But I'm gonna open it up and just giving people a heads up. If you could raise your hand, that would be really helpful. And we'll have you come on screen. But one is, there's a great question from Kate in the chat, and I'm gonna start with you, Valerie. What are your current COVID policies?
So we have them posted on our website. We do have a vaccination requirement for all new employees, as well as for people who are staying in our building for longer than a day. There's exemptions to that. And and if you are exempt from that, then we do still ask people to mask. And then we've got kind of the situations of if you've been exposed or if you've had it, masking for that period of time. And also stressing that people who do just want to stay masked and do that should feel comfortable doing so.
And then the other thing, and then I'll let you go. First of all, thanks again. It's really, really helpful to hear how Bigelow is managing with this. You can you state again, you were saying what you would like to hear from other people is specifically is around how you're handling hybrid. What was your question?
Yeah, how are you finding that just letting people choose what works best for them? We've all found that working from home, we can do it. And so if you can continue to do that, is that working for you, having some team members offsite and some people on site? How are you staying connected? Like, are you forcing in-person time or requiring it? And just maybe beyond Zoom and the Google Drive, which are awesome tools, like if there's any tools that you're using to stay connected.
Great. Thank you for framing that out. So does anybody want to take that on, or I've just been told by my handy helper in Zoom chat that I've got a board member, Justin. Can I put Justin on the spot? Or anyone else? I'd love to hear how other people are managing their hybrid space.
I'm here.
Oh, he showed up. Thanks, Justin.
So
Thank
in
you for
terms of
letting me put you on the
managing,
spot.
the
So tell us how
balancing
you're
sort of-
managing the hybrid space.
So I think there's pluses and challenges for us. I mean, some of it, we try with technology. So we bought a meeting owl, which I think many folks may be aware of, but it's sort of best in class or close to it in terms of these kind of thing, in terms of helping people who are remote really feel like they're more in the room, as opposed to sort of like the computer awkwardly set up in the corner and you can kind of barely see people. So I think things like that are helpful. But I think, I don't know that we've cracked the code on this. I think, we still struggle in terms of, we are largely remote. People have the option, but most people choose to be remote. And I think one of the challenges I struggle with is when to come together in person. And I struggle with it more this year because we added it. We're based in Brunswick and most of our team is in the Brunswick, Portland area. But we added a team member who's up in Washington County earlier this year. And so now I'm thinking about this through the lens of not just, when does it make sense to get together, but just the actual cost of that. And there's cost of reimbursing mileage, but it's also just cost of time and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And it's this challenge to balance because I do keep hearing from staff, we want to get together more. And there are things that we, need to come together for around strategy and things like that. But I sense that a lot of the desire to come together is just sort of for general connection. We use Google Chat and Spaces and things like that to do some of that, but it's not a replacement. Zoom's not a perfect replacement for it. So I am struggling with that too, is figuring out how to build that in a way that feels valuable to people, recognizing that some of the value they're looking for is a little bit intangible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm kind of inspired. Thank you, Justin. That's why I'm kind of inspired with Susan's idea of just making the decision that once a quarter, we're just going to do it. We're going to budget for it. And as she said, like people are beginning to prioritize it in a way that it becomes just part of our culture. As opposed to, X many years ago, you wouldn't do that because it felt like a waste of time or it felt like a waste of resources. And, but it feels like I'm just getting a sense out there. I've been just reading articles about the need to cultivate in-person community in our increasingly isolated virtual lives, that it may become a very different calculation in what we're investing in as businesses in general, frankly, but I think those of us in the nonprofit sector that are mission focused and purpose driven, personally, this is just me talking, I think that we have an extra opportunity to lead in this area in terms of how we are resetting the rules and how we're investing our time around our teams and what we all need. I mean, Justin, your team is dealing with food insecurity in the state of Maine, right? Like, this is big stuff. It's Bigelow Labs is about climate and the oceans and the healthy. I mean, this stuff is big, and we've got to support each other in this. So I really appreciate that. Is there anybody else I can pick on? I apologize, Justin. He completely, very graciously got picked on there. Kelly, are you willing to come on and talk to me? Oh, good. Hey, Peter. Thanks for hopping on. How are you?
Great. Doing well.
Hey, everybody. Can I just tell you, for 3 years, I don't think Peter Montano has left that chair. I haven't seen him in person. I don't know, since I don't remember the last time I saw you in person.
It's been a while.
But it's just funny because every time I talk to Peter Montano, he's in that chair. The life of a CPA, right?
Yes, yes. So I can definitely relate. I mean, many of you are clients of ours, and I know that the battle of how do we make everything work. So I've heard a lot of your stories over the last 3 years, and we've got the same challenges that you all do. I mean, I've got 11 staff. They're spread all Chicago, Massachusetts. Most of them are in Maine. Some will come into the office a couple of days a week. Some of them are just virtual 100%. What a lot of them been doing is, they'll at least once a month, quite often they will get together. They'll go out for dinner or bowling or something, just something different. We use Zoom a lot, but even on the other side, with our clients, and so most of our audits and our work is all virtually. We do at times go out to clients, like for inventories or maybe do some compliance testing for a day. But what we are finding is a lot of the clients seem to like being virtual with the auditors. So we're not in there bugging you for a week. Happy, we are happy to come out and visit now that things are starting to calm down a little bit. But the other thing we're finding is a lot of our clients have, reduced their space. So they really don't have room for us to come out. But I do encourage all of you to, continue to reach out, especially to your accountants who can really help provide a lot of service to you. It's a quick phone call. Send a Zoom link. I know most of us in the accounting world are more than happy to jump on a call and answer a question, or don't feel you're isolated, that your accountants or your bookkeepers can't just call. It's big. So I'd be curious to hear how people are dealing with that. And the other thing I want to throw out there is, we are virtual, and everything our whole systems are, and we use Roundtable, great organization. They really helped us get up and running, and they're always there to help us troubleshoot. So, again, I mean, they're quick to respond, which has been great to really help us, be able to service all of you. So,
Peter, thank you for that. That's a really good reminder that that our partners out there, our support partners, are the attorneys and the CPAs and the tech firms. Roundtable technology is what Peter's referring to, and Christian's here and the Zoom chat too. These are people who really care about our work too. And so it's a really good reminder that if we do have questions and we're struggling with these things around hybrid workforces, that it's reach out, right? Reach out to your colleagues and reach out to the people who are here to support you. We are at time, which is, this is definitely one of those topics where I'm like, 45 minutes is just not enough, folks. But that's just to say, keep coming back to MAMP Connects. There are a couple of things that are a little different this time. If you've been a MAMP Connects participant frequently, we are now a event to event registration. So each time you'll need to register. But that's good news because that's related to our new website. And so if you haven't taken a look at our new website and you haven't yet had a chance to update your profile for your organization, we really encourage you to do that because we have some great new functionality on that site, and we're going to be increasing some interesting functionality as we get used to it in other phases. And so we'd love to have you current and up to date in that website. So please register. Our March one is going to be fun because it coincides with Maine Cultural Week, and our friends over at Cultural Alliance of Maine are going to be doing a lot of advocacy at the State House around Maine culture. And so we've decided to have a cultural theme for our March MAMP Connects. So we're expecting that to be a particularly fun one. And again, thank you to our friends at Harvard Pilgrim. We're gonna have a full year of MAMP Connects. We're really excited to do that. I always want to hear from any of you about ideas, about things you want to talk about. And when you come to MAMP Connects and you still have some of these prevailing questions, that's what the chat box is for. We're trying to create some virtual community and connect all of you a little bit better. So we want to hear from you. We hope to see you again. And it is 9:45. Did I cover everything, Kelly McCormick? Can you give me a thumbs up? She said yes. Okay, good. I'm going to let you go. Some of you may be enjoying a long workday weekend, a long weekend, which is great. So if you are, good for you. And we wish you well. And I hope to see every single one of you again in March. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.